Greetings, this is Amy Wentley with China Knuckles Knitting, and this is episode 2021-30, the Miss Marple Scarf, separating for the keyhole. So this is the last in a series of 4 videos that I've done for the Miss Marple Scarf. The first talked about doing the knit front back increase, the second the make 1 increase, the third the knit 2 together decrease, and this video is going to show you how to separate the stitches on your needle to work the keyhole for this scarf. This starts on the back of the page 2 of the pattern, and this is where the designer instructs you to divide the stitches. Now this is a little bit different than the way the pattern is written. The designer talks about putting stitches on a pin. She actually means a stitch holder. I think they call it a pin. I think she's from England, not sure, but I'm going to have you work with 2 double pointed needles instead to move your stitches and to separate them. So just follow along with me. It won't be too difficult. The first thing I would like you to do is to put a lifeline in your work, and that is a piece of yarn that you put through your stitches so that it catches them, so that if you make a mistake or you drop a stitch, this string will catch it before it unravels all the way down. You want to pick a yarn that's a lighter weight than the yarn that your project is made of. So mine is a bulky weight yarn, so I am using I think this is a sport weight yarn, and I want a contrasting color. You don't want this to be too thin. I don't recommend using dental floss, for instance. You want something with a little bit of substance but not as thick as your yarn. You also want a very highly contrasting color so you can see it very well. So go ahead and take a piece of yarn that's maybe 2 times or 3 times as wide as your knitting. Cut it off and go ahead and thread it onto a tapestry needle. And you will want to move all your stitches down to the cord part of your circular needle here. And you're going to take this darning needle with the yarn on it and put it through the stitches. If you have stitch markers in, you want to go around the stitch markers, not through them, but around them. And just go ahead and go through each stitch on the cord and thread your needle and your contrasting yarn through the stitches. So as I said, this extra yarn here, this extra string, will catch your stitches. If you ever make a mistake and you want to pull your stitches out, you can pull them all out and they will stop at this line. Then you can pick up the stitches on this line with your needle again, and it'll be very easy to do. So this is just a little bit of a safety measure, a lifeline. So, and remember, go around your marker, not through it, and you've got that threaded through. And leave a nice tail on each end. You don't want the stitches to slip off, so just leave a nice tail and they'll dangle there. So now we're going to separate the stitches. You've got your stitches on your needle here, but you're now going to get 2 double pointed needles. For this project you're going to need a total of 3. You'll be working with the 3rd one in a minute. But you want to get 2 double pointed needles and hold them in your right hand like this, parallel. Push your stitches to the end of the needle, and it's going to be a little tight now because that extra string in there is making it a little tighter around your needle. Okay, so I'm going to back up maybe just a little bit so you can see this a little better. Here. So you're going to take your 2 needles like this, and you are going to alternate dropping these stitches off onto these needles. So this is the back needle. I'm slipping the first stitch, and I'm just going to drop my marker off here. I do not need this marker anymore. Okay, so the first stitch went on the back needle. The second stitch, I'm just moving it, just slipping it over onto the front needle. Then I come to the back needle and slip onto the back needle, and then I come around to the front needle, slip on the front needle, then slip on the back needle, and keep alternating. Now, just a warning, my piece here doesn't match yours at this point in the project. This is really just for demonstration purposes, but the concept is the same. I have less stitches than you do. I have a bulkier yarn, and as I said, it's for demonstration purposes, so I don't have exactly the same number that you have. And just keep alternating front and back. So for this project, you have 31 stitches on your needle that you're transferring. So that means when you finish this, you're going to have 16 stitches on the front needle and 15 stitches on the back needle. So just, and then if you need to push through, go ahead and do that. You don't want too much really on the edges. Back, front, back. Oops, did I? Oh yeah, front. Okay, and actually I started on the back needle, so I'm going to have 16, I can drop the marker, 16 on my back needle and 15 on my front. Okay, let me just count just to make sure. So this is the front, it's 2, 4, 6, oh, I had less stitches than you did. So I'll count my stitches, which are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 on the back. Okay, 12 on the front, 11 on the back. So now you're ready and you're set up to start working the 2 flaps that are going to make up the keyhole. The one thing I want to recommend too, let me go back and reach for this, is I recommend that you put stoppers on the back double-pointed needle like this, to keep those stitches from moving while you're working. So these stitches on the back, they're going to just stay there while we work on the front. We're going to go ahead and work on the front flap, and then we're going to put stoppers on that needle and we'll start working on the back flap. So I have my working yarn here and I'm going to start doing ribbing. That means I'm going to knit 1 stitch, then purl 1 stitch. This first row is going to be a little tight, a little awkward, but as you go on, it will get better. So that's knit 1, and then bring the yarn to the front and purl the next stitch. And take the yarn to the back and knit a stitch. And take the yarn to the front and purl the stitch. So that's 4. And then knit is 5. And then purl is 6. And knit is 7. And then purl is 8. And then knit is 9. And then purl is 10. And then knit is 11. And purl is 12. Okay, so for me, I've got 12 on the front and 11 on the back. So if you are working the needle with the even number of stitches on it first, like mine, 12, when you do knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, you're going to end with a purl. That's an even number. Okay, if you decide to do the needle with the odd number first, it'll be knit, purl, and you're going to end with a knit because it's an odd number. Just so you know that. Don't be confused. Once you get that first knit purl row done, you're going to turn over and you're going to continue working on just this needle, not the one with the stoppers yet. And if you notice, you're going to turn it around, and it's easy to see if you're going to be doing starting with a knit or a purl stitch. So you will see that the first stitch is a knit stitch. The second stitch has a purl bump. It's a purl. This one's plain, it's a knit. This one has a bump, it's a purl. So I'm going to start out with knit. Sorry. And then I bring my yarn to the front and do a purl. It's a little funny working with these needles, but you'll get the hang of it. Third stitch is a knit. Sorry about that, got a little bit off camera. Fourth stitch is a purl. There's a purl bump there. I'm going to purl this stitch. There's no purl bump there. I'm going to knit the stitch. So I'm going to keep doing this ribbing pattern for a total of 14 rows. Then I'm going to stop, and when it's time for me to stop, I'm going to take some stoppers, some needle stoppers or whatever you want to call them, and put them on the ends of this needle so that my 14 stitches of, or my 14 rows of ribbing don't start to fall off the needle. And then I am going to turn around and I am going to start doing the same 14 rows of ribbing on the other double pointed needle. So I'll explain that in a second. So okay, that's my second row of ribbing, and you can see that you're starting to work the ribbing for these flaps. So as I said, when I'm done with this row, I'm going to take these stoppers off the needle in the back, put them on this, and I'm going to turn and I'm going to start working on these stitches. Now, what you can do is if you have 2 balls of yarn, you can just go ahead and let this yarn you were working with attached to this ball just sit there. Don't worry about it. And then you can get your other ball and you will just start knitting here with a new piece of yarn. You will pick up the new piece of yarn and you will wrap it around like this and start. We're pretending this is a new piece of yarn, like that, okay? If you don't have 2 balls of yarn, excuse me, you will have to cut this first ball of yarn that you were using. And please leave a nice long tail, at least 6 inches, so that you can weave that into your work later and hide it. You will take, after you cut this yarn, you will take the end of the yarn again and you will start working on the new needle with that new end. Okay, so that's it for the separating for the keyhole. And thank you for watching these videos, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.